Are we going to see the markets capitulate in 2023? Hi, I'm Doug Ray, and I'm the president and the founder of the Wealth Guardians and the Ray Financial Group.
And I'm Brice Payne, and you've entered The Vault, the Wealth Guardians video series on all things pertaining to retirement planning. In this episode, we're going to cover what market capitulation is, when was the last time we saw the markets capitulate, and what market capitulation means to your retirement plans. Don't forget to hit those little like and subscribe buttons you see below us here. And let's go ahead and get to it, Doug. What is market capitulation? Why are we talking about this?
All right, so in our last episode, what we talked about there was what we thought was going to take place in 2023. So if you haven't seen that episode, you might want to go back and look at it again, or if you did see it, you might want to review it before going further into this episode. So what we did in the last episode was we talked about 2022 and what the effects of the markets were and what caused the markets to go down. And then at the end of the video, I was telling my reasons why I think in 2023 we still have further to go on the downside. Although right now the markets have been rallying for a little bit ever since before Christmas, and everybody seems to be pretty comfortable with the idea that the Fed is very close to ending their rate hikes. Last episode we talked about inflation and how the Fed tries to control that by increasing interest rates. Well, I think there's still more rate increases ahead of them. As they do that, that slows the economy down, and also it slows down the advance of the stock market. What is capitulation? This is another reason why I don't think we've seen the bottom of this bear market. Capitulation is the idea that when the staunchest of bull investors throw up their hands and say, I'm done, I'm out of here, I can't take any more of that, and they sell out. It's essentially the old phrase of throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
The last hangers on.
That's it, the very last ones. We haven't seen that yet. So how do you see capitulation? There's an index called the VIX, V-I-X. It's measurable. And what it does, it's a sentiment gauge, and it measures fear in the marketplace. And it's a range from about 10 up to about 90 on the scale. This whole time we have been hovering with just around about 18, 19, 20 on that scale. And even in the worst of last year's market, we only went up to about 35 or so. Well, if you look at our chart, and let's go back to the last time we saw capitulation, that was right after we went into the COVID lockdown. That was in March of 20, and if you recall, back then, the markets went into a bear market the quickest they've ever had. I think they were down, 35% or something?
36.
Okay, and came out the quickest that they ever had. So again, look at the chart here. You'll see that spike in the VIX. It spiked all the way up to 80-something, 84 point something or other. That's a huge move from where we are now. It is very visible to the naked eye. That's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Go back again. The last time we saw a VIX spike like this, capitulation, was back in March of 2009. The VIX went that one day up to, I think it was 89, I believe. It was really high. In fact, in the last episode, I told the story. I actually saw on TV that day of capitulation. I was watching one of the business shows, and of course, they scroll on the bottom, all the stock symbols and so forth. That whole week, we had been losing 1,000 points a day on the Dow, S&P, an equivalent number. Well, this one particular day, the markets were down again, hundreds of points. And it was about 2:30 in the afternoon. It started to sink. The S&P I was watching this time, and it started to slow down a little bit. And it hit a number, 666. Kind of raises a little hair on the back of your neck. And then it stopped, and then it started to turn up and up and up and up. That was capitulation. That was the end of the Great Recession bear market.
And this guy didn't stop his run for about 12 years.
That's exactly right. And in fact, the next day, the market had what we call a gap up opening, meaning that it opened higher than it closed. So on the chart, it actually left a gap. And like Brice just said, it's just been going ever since, except for that little burp in 20.
Wow. And this year.
And this
Last year, 2022.
So again, that is one of the reasons why I don't think we've seen the end of this bear market. Along with the Fed, they're absolutely, Jerome Powell says every time, he says, we're not done hiking interest rates. For whatever reason, the market doesn't believe him. And that's the problem. That's what that VIX reading of 18 or 19, it's called complacency. There's a lot of complacency in this market, and it was born from the fact that from 2009's capitulation up to now, people learned to buy the dip because you can make a lot of money on it. Whenever the market corrected a little bit, they bought that dip and off we went again. Well, bear markets love to fool people who buy the dip, and also they love to fool bears because people who were short back in December are getting hurt pretty bad now with this rally.
And that's probably a whole other episode that we could get into.
And that's another episode. So I wanted to give you folks an idea of why we don't believe we've seen the end of this bear market. Remember capitulation. Remember the VIX index. That VIX is something that you ought to take a look at if you like investing and if you like to look at the markets.
And what did you say the VIX index is right now? About 18?
It's about 19.
19. And it's got a long way. It needs, if it was going to replicate what happened in 2020, it's got about another 65 points to go.
It's got a long way to go.
Okay.
And it can happen quick, too. So there you go. That's what capitulation is.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Vault. Feel free, again, to hit that like and subscribe button there and for all future episodes. And remember, the markets aren't going to wait for you. I'm Brice Payne.
And I'm Doug Ray.
And this has been The Vault.